Who makes the best 23 for the Adelaide Crows for the 2025 season? Very exciting. The Zero Hanger team here. We've made our call. We're going to go through it line by line. But before we do, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got heaps of footy content coming out this year. We're very excited. But for now, let's go. But before we get into it, don't forget that zerohanger.com is the #1 independent AFL news source for all your AFL news, trades, draft content, and now games. Check out our latest game, AFL Streakr. Test out your footy stats knowledge and see if you can get your name on the leaderboard. All right, best 23 for 2025 for Adelaide. Breaking it down for me, Aidan Cellini from the Zero Hanger team. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Enjoy your break?
Yes, I did.
Did you think about footy at all? Because I have not. I've forgotten everything.
I tried to switch off as best I could, but being a bit of a footy nuff here, kind of continued to circle back to it every now and then.
Love that. Okay, so Adelaide coming into 2025, they were pretty aggressive in their recruitment in the off season, from what I remember. How do you think they're shaping up in list wise coming into 25?
Well, yeah, they clearly saw a need in their front half and through the midfield. So they got Alex Neil-Billen from the D's and James Pentley from the Giants. Also crossing from the Giants as well as Isaac Cumming as an unrestricted free agent. He can play in multiple roles for the Crows now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of put them all in. But I think they definitely, all three of them, will start, round one.
Yeah.
Next year or this year.
Are they round 1 or round 0? Are they a round 0 team?
No, they're round 1.
Okay, round 1. All right, let's take a look at how we think the defenders will line up in round 1 for Adelaide. All right, so the Zero Hanger team have chosen their defenders for Adelaide for 2025. We'll go line by line. So at the fullback line, Dan Curtin, Mark Keane, Max Michaelani. And then the halfback, Mitch Hinge, Nick Murray, and Luke Nankervis. So some interesting choices there. We'll go through the fullback line because it's quite young. Starting with Dan Curtin.
Yeah, no, big raps on him as a top 10 pick a couple of years ago. 12 months in the system now. Has been trialled as a midfielder throughout the preseason, but initially he was played down back. I think he stands at 197 centimetres.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
And he's quite mobile in that fact. I guess they all are nowadays, kind of have to be. So we do have him starting across the half back line or even a bit deeper just to kind of get his bearings at AFL football, but we do see him potentially moving up into the midfield or even higher up the back line as the year progresses and maybe into the future as well.
Yeah. And Mark Keane?
Super Irish player. He's burst onto the scene last year. He's been in the system for quite a while, formerly at Collingwood as well. They went after him as well. Adelaide said, no, absolutely not. We want him. We like him. And last year showed that. He's an intercept king, really developing into his craft. I think he's only played 30-odd games at AFL level. So the more games he gets under his belt, the better he'll be. And therefore, obviously, the Crows will be a bit more sure down back too.
Yeah. And another young one, Max Michaelani. I like the look of him.
Yeah, superstar. Kind of an unheralded youngster at the Crows and maybe even the competition just because he's in South Australia, so probably doesn't get as much media rap as maybe the others do. But he's really developing into quite a nice player. One of the probably premier lockdown small defenders at the moment. But what he's able to add to his game is that bounce off halfback and that real speed and dare that the Crows lacked last year in 2024. And he'll be a big part in what they do in the back half of the ground in 2025 as well.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty young-ish backline overall. We'll get to the people that just missed out later in the video, so stick around to later in the video. But let's take a look now at the midfielders. All right. So the mids, we're starting with Riley O'Brien in the ruck. Pretty straightforward. And then Isaac Rankin, Jake Saligo, and Jordan Dawson. And then on the wings, Isaac Cumming and Lachlan Scholes. So we'll start with Isaac Cumming coming over from the Giants.
Yeah, huge in for the Crows. He can play, as I said earlier, in multiple positions, namely halfback for the Giants. But I think using his foot skills and his position kicking, we can kind of push him up further in the ground for the Crows. They do like that kind of gold kick where, you go from outside 50 to inside 50 to lead up targets and forwards. And I think Cumming can definitely provide that for Adelaide this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so Rankin moving into that midfield, I think primarily last year had an amazing season. Again, he's a midfielder now.
Yeah, I think he's definitely kind of become that modern day midfield forward type role where you do kind of burst into the midfield. Last year obviously proved that he can do that for long periods of time throughout the game. And Adelaide need him to take that next step to start him. I think he can be a top 5 player in the competition, and giving more time in the midfield will allow him to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jake Saligo, probably one of the better improvers of last year, slots in there as well.
Yeah, just adds super amounts of grunt to the Adelaide lineup. They had, Rory Laird and Matt Crouch, who are probably a little bit long in the tooth nowadays. And Saligo's that next kind of wave of generation that the Crows are looking to rely upon more. And 2024 showed that. And obviously 2025 will be a bigger year for him too.
Yeah, they've got a bit of work to do in that midfield, but let's move now to the forward line. All right, so the Adelaide forward line is pretty interesting. It was last year and it'll continue to be this year. So we've named in the half forward line Ben Keys, Taylor Walker, and Alex Neil-Bullen coming over from the D's. And then forward line, Riley Thilthorpe, Darcy Fogarty, and Josh Rochelle. So let's start with Josh Rochelle. Yeah. Pretty controversial end to his year last year.
Yeah, well, dropped for the last game because he wasn't upholding team standards, but he also had a career best year in terms of 30 goals for the season, which means he can do it in front of the big sticks. I think what Adelaide fans would like to see is kind of him turning into a bit of a Rankin type player where he can burst into the midfield. They have trialled that at times last year, in the last couple of years anyway, but 2025 should be the year where he kind of takes that step to getting Adelaide back into finals contention.
Yeah, and speaking of somebody that can also push into the midfield, so Alex Neil-Bullen coming over from the D's, I was very sad about it, but he's on the half forward flank here for the Crows.
Yeah, huge in for the Crows. One of the best two-way runners in the game. Kind of that modern half-forward type where you can bounce into defence, really help out your teammates. But then also once you get the ball on the offensive chains, this links up perfectly. Huge in for the Crows. I think it'll be a massive help for their 25 aspirations.
Yeah. And so what are we going to do now about these three talls? So Taylor Walker going around again, probably his last year, I'd imagine. How do you see that shaping up?
Yeah, well, Thilthorpe and Fogarty clearly have, the whole forward line to themselves. Now, Nick should give them the keys and they should take it however they see fit. Both are coming into their prime or nearabouts, and they've shown definitely they've got the capability of doing so. And therefore, Taylor Walker should just act as a third fiddle. His field kicking is elite. He's usually really good in front of goal. So if he pops up for 30, 40 goals, I think that's pretty good from someone at Taylor Walker's age.
Yeah. All right, and on the bench, so we've got Rory Laird, Josh Worrell, James Peatling, Luke Pedlar, and Sid Draper as the sub, the new pick. So let's start with that. We both disagree with that as Sid Draper as a sub, but this list was primarily put together by Chief Editor Mitch Keating, and he has the final say on these sort of things. So what did you reckon there when you saw that, Sid Draper as a sub?
Well, just to know, we do love Mitch, so we're definitely not hanging him out to dry here, but we do think Sid Draper probably should start. Fourth pick in last year's draft. Looks like he's just primed for AFL footy. He's got that burst. He's got the speed. He's got a skill set as well that kind of does uphold him at AFL level 2. So I think we'll slide him into the 22. Yep. Sorry, Mitch. But yeah, I think in terms of that bench, obviously the Rory Laird has to be locked in. Josh Wall, defensive option that can play both small and tall. James Peatling, a newbie as well. Definitely shot straight into the Adelaide lineup. And I'll probably push Pedlar to the sub.
Yeah. So it's an interesting looking best 23 coming in 2025. Quite young, but I think we knew that coming out of 24. Out of that 23, who was stiff to miss out?
Well, two that immediately come to mind is Chase Jones and Wayne Milera. They're both kind of half-back lockdown defenders, but both have the capability of providing that bounce and run, which seems to be what the AFL is demanding of clubs and teams at the moment. That those who are off halfback, that they're providing, from defense to offense in quick succession, which allows their forward line to kind of get the jump on their defensive output, their opposition defenders. So those two initially will probably be around the mark for round 1 and beyond, and definitely will be seen a lot in 2025. But also Billy Dowling, he made a bit of an impact late in last year as a bit of a big body midfielder, but can play up forward as well. So just keep an eye on him too.
Yeah. And of course, always going to be injuries and that stuff coming into the season. So interesting one for Crows fans. Thank you, Adam, for putting that together. I'm glad we could disagree with Mitch on the Sid Draper thing. Let us know in the comments what you think of this best 23. I know that Adelaide fans are quite vocal on our channel, which is great. Let us know in the comments, what do we get wrong, what do we get right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed yet. We've got a lot of content coming out this year. We're getting very excited for the 2025 season, and catch all the latest at zerohangout.com.